I heard someone ripped cheese off on a New Hampshire run. Did you hear anything about that?
No,
Care to take a polygraph?
I already took one.
Different questions this time. Come on.
It's all right. We don't care about a couple of hopheads beating each other. We care about your child. And we know you took the money. So just tell us how much you took. How much? How much?
Not too many movies have been made in Boston, but the few that have been mostly great, including Good Will Hunting and Now
Nice.
Gone Baby Gone. What do you think it is about the city of Boston that lends itself to such great storytelling?
I think it's a really specific, kind of unique place. I think the country has become really pretty homogenized. You know, you can get the same sweater at the same Gap in Seattle that you can in San Antonio that you can in Minnesota. You know, like it's all sort of taken on the same feel slowly. And I think Boston still has a very specific, a little parochial, but very kind of unique feel to it. And more, you know, when you're telling a story, you want something interesting that feels identifiable. For a long time, like say in the 70s, for example, everybody was doing like, you know, Brooklyn and this kind of thing. Like every story seemed to want to be there. You're starting to see a lot of stuff kind of like be in Boston. I mean, you look at the great movies, Mystic River, Departed, there are these incredible movies that have gone to Boston. Boston's not very big, you know?
It's not.
But it's such a great setting, you know?
What sort of like research did you do to try and figure out, you know, who Helene is and what sort of world she came from and everything? You just hang out in a lot of dive bars?
Well, I remember I went to a bar in Dorchester right before we started filming.
Which one do you remember?
I don't remember, unfortunately, but I went with a couple of people, and the bartender had leaned over and said, you know, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I'm researching this movie. I need to try to learn a Boston accent. He's like, you know, there's been 7 shootings in the past 7 days. You might not want. I was like, oh my god. Okay, I go home and watch some DVDs instead.
Exactly. Get me a copy of Mystic River.
Right. Exactly. So no, but you know, we had the luxury of filming in Dorchester. So, you know, and Ben so creatively and courageously cast non-actors. So this great woman, Jill Quigg, one of Boston's own, never left my side, and I recorded, you know, her as much as possible. Go home, and you know, and then also the Affleck brothers, one in each year at all times, saying, "Oh, that's wrong. That's right. Good. That's wrong." You know.
Do you think there's part of Patrick that doesn't want to see Amanda or anybody really like leave the neighborhood?
You know
what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think that his relationship to the neighborhood is this. He starts out in the beginning, and he's, I think he feels a little bit conflicted about being a part of that, so much a part of that community in the way that everyone says, you're from here, you can't ever leave here, you know, this is who you are. And he kind of feels like, this isn't who I am, I'm me, you know what I mean? I got nothing to do with you, because you live across the street from me. And he feels a little superior about the cops, you know, he doesn't want to. He thinks he could do a better job. By the end of the movie, I think he sort of has embraced his that part of his identity, the city, the neighborhood, being a part of who he is. So, you know, he kind of gives himself back to the neighborhood in a way. There's definitely a prejudice that comes that's present in Boston and people like that, where they feel as though, you know, there's a conflict between like leaving the neighborhood or not leaving the neighborhood, and there's a bias towards like, well, either way you should kind of stay here, and that there's something fundamentally important about like being here and staying in this insular area, which is actually the tendency that works to maintain that kind of insularity that we're talking about with the previous question. You know, a lot of people I knew, and I mean a lot of people growing up, had not been on an airplane. A lot of people had never been out of town, except maybe once or twice to Florida, you know what I mean? Or maybe once to Providence or something like that, you know? And because there's the attitude, not because they couldn't afford it even, it was just a kind of like, why would I go anywhere? Or, you know, really the place you should be staying is here.
You know, I knew we were on the right track. The first day of filming, I had gone away to hair and makeup. When I came back, the PA wouldn't let me on set. And he said, you know, I was out there with all the neighbors who were watching Ben Affleck filming, you know, and he said, you know, I'm sorry, you can't, I said, oh, but I'm in the movie, and I was doing the Boston accent, I'm in the movie. He's like, yeah, right, you're in the movie, please stand back. I said, no, really, I'm working with Ben Affleck. Right, you're working with Ben Affleck. So, you know, I got banned from set my first day
That is awesome.
on the job. So, you know, But I relished that because I was like, okay, something must have clicked in place that he thought I was like this neighborhood.
You know, what was more kind of rewarding or challenging, acting opposite people that maybe were never in a movie before, or icons like Ed Harris and Morgan Freeman? I mean, which...
It's all the same shit. I don't care.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I like, what are you gonna do? Be nervous about stand there and be terrified of the guy because he was good in a few movies? You know what I mean?
That's right.
And then there's the guy up the street who could be the next Marlon Brando, and this is his first performance. So I don't treat it any differently. I feel like it's, you know, you just kind of focus on who they're supposed to be in this kind of in the movie and take it from there. And you know, often a lot of these people that were kind of working for the first time that Ben had just picked off the street that weren't actors, they had a lot more, like, they had some serious presence, you know what I mean? Because they're not really pretending to be anything. So if you kind of get in their face and you say something, you know what I mean, they take it personally, you know what I mean? You have to be like, it's just a movie, you know, right? So it's, and that's a great performance, you know, what they were giving. I thought that people were like, some of the best performances are the people that were just, they just kind of were there and been found and put them in the movie.
Which would you rather see happen this year? Casey win an Oscar, or the Red Sox win the World Series again? I'm just wondering, like, if you had it, you can only choose one. You can't have them both.
I can't. You got to still go talk to Casey, right? So I don't even want to get into that question because, you know, I get too much trouble.
Okay, and I asked Ben this, and he also deflected it to you. What do you want to see happen more this year? You or Ben win an Oscar, or the Red Sox win the World Series again? You can only pick one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'd like to see Ben win an Oscar for directing.
Really? Well, that's almost sacrilege back home. They would say, cut your brother loose, and he's got one. Let them win again.
Listen, here's the thing. I would say that about him, and he would say that this would bring the World Series, so it comes full circle, and the Sox win.
Okay, see, there we go.